Okay.
All right, so we are live now. So I was just going again. So
Okay.
good afternoon everybody and thank you for joining us this afternoon at Spondle Circle. For the people that are joining us for the very first time, I'll just share what Spondle Circle is, our vision, and what we do here every month. So every month we gather together to have conversations with parents or intending parents, but mostly we focus on parents. And why we do that is at Spondle, we've realized that it's very important that we have conversations around parenting and family life because they
Mm.
say it takes a village to raise a child, and I believe that I'm somebody's child even though I'm a parent. So maybe the village is also like raising me also like as a parent, and so like they make it like very important to have conversations around family life. And then
Yeah.
what we do is that we bring experts and parents to join us every month. Most importantly, these experts are also people that have gone through parenting. They have an understanding of what the
Mm.
problem that we're talking about is. And this helps them to also not just give us expert advice alone, but they are also lived experience of what exactly has happened. So this event is hosted by Spondle, and at Spondle, what we do is very easy. We are creating a mobile app that helps families with family organization, like home organization. So instead of planning your family with several tools or several apps, you do it in one place. That's what we do at Spondle.
Mm.
My name is Folasade Ajayi-John. I'll be your host this afternoon, and I'm having this conversation with the very beautiful, the very delectable
Thank
Mrs.
you.
Ibironke Semowo. Thank you so much for joining us today at Spondle Circle. So, like, a joy to have you here with us. I recall that our very first conversation last year was on LinkedIn. You had
Yes.
reached out to me
Yes.
and just said, "What is
Yeah.
this Spondle?" Like, I don't know what you guys are doing, but what is this Spondle? Like, I think that I am, I see you. Well done, and that's like our very very first interaction. Very nice to have you here, ma'am.
Thank you
So
very
I would
much.
want you
Thank you for
to,
having me.
introduce yourself, to us this afternoon.
Okay, thank you very much for having me, Folashade and Spondle Circle. Yes, I remember our first interaction was on LinkedIn. My name is Ibironke Semowo, and I'm a mindful parenting educator. And I would explain what I mean by that. Parenting is a passion for me. If there is anything I can teach or train people to do for free, it has to be parenting. In the last 13 years, I have had cause to work with hundreds of parents. One through an after school center that I co founded and co ran for 10 years for young children ages 4 to 11. Now, this was to fill a gap that I identified between when children close from school and when parents finish with their works or businesses. Now, we all know that that time is just meant for play or they should be at home with nannies and all, which is quite fine. But children thrive in structured, safe environments. And that was what the after school center sought to provide them those critical 5 hours between when they close from school and when parents close from their offices. And then after that, I have since gone on to create a WhatsApp parenting community, virtual parenting community for parents who want value based parenting to raise confident, responsible children, a safe space called the Parents Lounge, where we share monthly, weekly, and weekend exercises, tips, and learnings on how to support each other in this calling of parenting. Like Folashade said, it said that it takes a village to raise a child. But really, what village is looking out for the parents? The parents need help too. That help is what we seek to provide in the Parents Lounge. I'm a mother with 3 young adults, empty nester, who's raised 3 children in Lagos State with her husband, lived in Lagos State all my life. And I'm happy to be here. Thank you
Thank
very
you very much
much.
for that. introduction. I love the mindful parenting bit, and I'll just start with that.
Mm,
So, my very first
okay.
question for you this afternoon will be, why mindful parenting? Like, can you like walk us through the journey of how you found
Mm.
yourself wanting to be a mindful parent coach?
Good. Thank you very much. Now, first, I'm going to challenge the idea of mindful parenting being seen as permissive parenting. Mindful parenting is one of the most difficult types of parenting that you want to undertake. It means you're going to be present in your child's life. It means you're going to learn new skills to raise digital age children, relearn your own analog skills, and a whole lot of it. Now, during the course of running the after school center, I had costs to work with a lot of parents. And I saw that what parents call parenting was actually caregiving. There's a difference between caring for our children and parenting them. A lot of parents assume that once I provide for my child's needs, school, education, feeding, entertainment, then my work is done. I can be as absent as I want. I can do as many things in through proxy or by contracting it out. So I started thinking, this is not how we will raise children who can trust us because they are connected to us. A lot of children just saw their parents as providers. They didn't see their parents as people they were connected to. That took me to start going back into my own parenting styles when my children were much younger. I started enrolling in classes to learn more about raising families because at the end of the day, no matter how successful we are out there, the biggest project you can have that will leave a legacy for you is right there in your home. And if mindful parenting, value based parenting is what can help us build those legacies, then it was time to start talking about this amongst ourselves. That's why I started Instagram lives, a couple of chats with parents in schools. I missed my friends, PTAs, and all. And that gave rise to mindful parenting as a technique for me.
Oh, wow. I love what you said about mindful parenting being a very intentional way of parenting. So I'll
Mm,
give like a scenario. I'm Nigerian, and I know that you're Nigerian
mhm.
from your name.
Yes.
And there is a way that parenting has sort of been done like in our own country.
Mm,
So even like life skills are being, we get life skills from our parents, and then somehow we just
yeah.
continue patterns of parenting. Now, when
Mm,
someone hears mindful parenting, what comes to their mind is, oh, do I have to over pet my child? Do I
mm,
not have boundaries in the parenting? Like, how can I be mindful?
mm,
Like, I've gone to work, all day, and
mm,
you want me to just come home and be babying you. Like, so I want you to,
mm.
like, really explain, what it takes to be a mindful parent. So for someone like me, I'm not a parent yet, but
Yes.
when I start, having children, what do I do?
Yeah.
Like, what are the things that I will be doing that I will say that, oh, okay, I'm a mindful parent? Or what am I already doing now that I'm like, oh, I am not a mindful parent? So I want us to just like
Mindful
have that
parent.
conversation. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Now, being a mindful parent starts from structure. A home must have structure. Children thrive and they feel safe where there is structure. If a child is taught from very early what to do per time, what not to do, then you're building structure. It minimizes the conflict points. Now, building on structure, riding on the back of structure, are boundaries. Boundaries must be set. When you set boundaries to children, you explain the boundaries and the reasons for the boundaries to them, which were things we never got when growing up. Our
Yeah.
parents set boundaries, but most times we didn't know why the boundaries were set. We didn't know why we had to do what we were being told to do. Now, on that boundary is discipline because there will be consequences for stepping out of the boundary lines. consequences that are also explained and known in the home. Now, the part that's difficult for us as parents, especially parents in urban centers, is that we do not create the time to follow through on the consequences. And so
Mm.
discipline dips and we resort to punishment. Now, if the child is raised on structure, has routines, knows what to do per time, knows the consequences of not doing them, and knows that dad and mom will carry out those consequences if I don't do them, then you're raising a confident, responsible, and disciplined child. And that's mindful parenting. But that time is something that we have in short supply as parents these days.
Yeah, so like if the time is short, to do all of these
Mm,
things, and then
mm,
like, maybe tips or tricks that we can
yeah,
still use as parents to still see to it that even though we set boundaries and then there
mm,
is like consequences for that boundary that and we don't want to reach the punishment stage. Are
yeah.
there like maybe conversations that maybe we should be having like with our little ones?
Oh, yes, we should be having, there are conversations we should be having. But one thing I must point out here is that no matter how well structured the home is, you need time to be present. You need
Mm,
time to be, we cannot overlook or downplay that. Now, in a home where we all sit down to agree that this is what our mornings will be like, I've had cause to, I don't know anyone who Lagos. I live in one end of Lagos when my children were in school. Then school was at another end of the city. In my home, there was an agreement. We will not get late to school as long as we can help it. So the structure was every weekday we go to bed early. By 8 p.m., the children are in bed. Now that helps them be composed in the
mm,
mornings when they're woken up early. They're ready for school, have been packed before. They just need to get up, have their bath, make the bed, off to school. And for 14 years that we did that commute, we never had one late day to school because we had
mm,
agreed as a family. The TV room at that time was out of bounds from Monday to Friday evening. Lives revolved around the structure we had set for ourselves. So everybody in the home worked towards that. You cannot ask children to do something and then you're doing something else.
mm.
If you have
Absolutely.
all agreed as a family, they must see you committed to that agreement in order for it to work. That's
Mm,
where it starts from. And once it becomes a practice, you see that you need less and less time talking about the same thing over and over again in the home.
mhm.
So I just use that morning structure
Yeah.
as an example to back this up.
Yeah, really like that example. Like it's so practical, it's so vivid. And then I like what you said about you cannot expect, to set a rule for your
Mm,
family. And then as the adults in the family, you yourself, you're not seeing through to
mm,
it that that rule is being
yes.
done properly. So I like that we've established what mindful parenting is and
Mm,
the tips that
yes.
we can see to know if we are being mindful with our parenting. So today's topic is actually something that I'm very excited about, and that's because
Yeah.
personally, I grew up in a home. I love my dad. I love him so much. But when I was younger, I was one of those children that used to ask, "Where's my real father? Maybe my real father has not come. Like my real dad is somewhere. He's hiding. This person cannot be my dad." And that's because if my dad is coming from work, oh my god,
Mm,
everybody everywhere has to be quiet. Like we can even sometimes
yes.
put water on the TV to make it cold because if that TV is warm, you are in trouble. Like if my dad is having a bad
Yeah.
day, you are definitely going to
Mm,
be like the recipient of whatever has happened outside.
mm,
And then now I'm married, open to the family, and I'm wondering how would I not, pass the same patterns of
yeah.
emotional regulation, like to my
Mm-hmm.
own children. And so today's topic is
Mm,
about talking about how do we keep cool, like how do we regulate our emotions as parents. But the
mm,
very first thing that I want us to touch on is what exactly is emotional regulation? So people say, maybe human beings or adults, we're not well regulated. How do I know if I'm not regulated? What does this emotional regulation even mean?
Thank you. I guess parents back then, like you mentioned, your dad had the same playbook. And I quite understand that. What I like to start with is that every generation works with what they have. Every generation is doing the best that they can with whatever is handed to. I'm sure our own parents must have seen them as probably permissive for allowing us get away with some of the things we got away with then. But that said, emotional regulation is never about not getting angry, or getting upset, or not getting ticked off. It's that thing that happens between the moment something triggers us and the way we choose to respond. That space is where emotional regulation happens. Because a parent can be angry and still be regulated. We operate under the assumption that being regulated means not getting angry. No, that would be inhuman. It's
Mm,
still being regulated even when you are angry or upset. So the goal is not to become a perfectly calm parent. It's to create a little space between the trigger, the response. If we have time, can I give a short example of something that happened between myself and second child, a son, recently. Stress this point that you're not a perfect parent. You get ticked off. During his graduation ceremony, I think that we were talking and I asked a question about something, maybe a gift that someone had given him, asking him what was it. At that time, I didn't know what he was thinking or what he felt I was asking it for. And his reaction was negative. I was getting ticked off. And in that moment, I thought, no, we're here for his graduation ceremony. Whole family is here, friends. We're having such a good time. Thank the Lord. I'm not going to get ticked off. So I stepped away from him and went to have a discussion with other members of the family and friends who were. Of course, by the time I got back to him, temper had been doused
mm,
because I walked away. And then when I came back, started talking about something else, he looked me in the eye and said, Mommy, I'm sorry about that. I shouldn't have reacted that way. I didn't even ask why you were asking. That wouldn't have been his response if I had erupted at that moment.
absolutely. Yeah.
That's what's being regulated. It comes with practice.
Wow. I love that example. Wow. I feel like a lot of parents, most times, because we don't know what you just explained. So there's an action and then
Mhm.
there is an expected reaction. So
Exactly.
you asked your son a question and then he reacted he
Mm.
responded in a particular way that could have
Mm.
made you react in an exact way. But then
Yeah.
the point of regulation was you walking away from him and
Yeah.
just doing something else to give yourself time to cool down. And then
Mm.
coming back to him, he had also gotten enough time to realize the error that he had made. And then
Mm.
you could both then talk about it in that moment. And
Exactly.
so
Exactly.
regulation is not about not getting offended,
Mm,
angry, or
mm,
ticked off. It's the ability to pause in that moment
mm.
when you're supposed to like maybe bring like like an expected reaction. So,
Yeah.
say for instance, I remember growing up and not liking anything that has to do with numbers, mathematics, sciences. It was my weak point. Now, I'm a fourth child of five. The my three siblings that are going ahead of me had all gone to science class, and they were all very shiny in mathematics. And then there was me, the fourth child. I hated numbers. I didn't want to see anything that was I just loved the arts, English, literature, novels. I could paint, I
Mm.
could draw. And my parents just saw it as a form of weakness. Like, Why are you not in
Yeah.
physics and chemistry class? And so I recall
Mm,
bringing home report cards, and then the moment my dad sees that red pen in mathematics, he's
mm,
coming, he's just going to scream at you like, I'm paying so much for your school fees. Why are you not? But like thinking about it now, say it, I am in his own shoes now as a parent, it will
mm,
be to just pause and then ask myself, why is this child not doing well in this
mm,
particular subject? Like, do I need to shout or scream or
mm.
react in a certain kind of way based on the fact that, oh, yes, I'm sending
Yes.
out to like a very expensive school before I then, show that, oh, I'm angry and I want to just
Yes.
vent it off on you. I think that that example you gave is so would it will live in my brain forever to teach me like how to sort of like bring myself to be regulated in
Yeah.
moments when I find myself questioning the
Mm,
situations that maybe I find myself in. And I think that
mm.
emotional regulation is not even only parents to child. There's also the
No.
partner to partner.
In
And
every relationship.
in every relationship. And I want you to like
Yes.
speak on the mental load. So for Spondle as a company, we are
Mm,
really trying to tackle helping parents break, like have more family time and less of the
mm,
family admin. So the mental load of planning like a home. And I've realized that the
mm.
mental load can also sometimes tick us off as
Yes.
human beings. So I want you to like speak on, like the mental load affecting how regulation happens even between partners, like in a
Yeah.
marriage.
Thank you. I've been married for about 32 years now, so I guess I
Wow.
should be able to do some speaking on this. What I'm going to say first and foremost is that get help if you can. You are not superhuman. Mothers, you are not four men, you're just one person. Fathers, you are just one person. The weight that we carry, whether we see it or not, ultimately affects our relationships with our spouses and with our children. So, if there is any way that we can physically lighten that load by getting help, please do get help for yourselves. It does not mean you are weak. It does not mean you are incapable of running your homes. It just means you're human. And it gives you more presence of mind to spend as a family. Now, when you talk about the emotional load of families, I'll give another example. Some people would say it is depriving myself of certain things in order to be able to achieve that. But I say that in parenting, there are seasons. There are seasons when the children are the only thing you can think about in addition to your career or your business. You can't even factor in the external family. That's the truth. You can factor in as much return as you want. That's the phase you're in. When I was still in paid employment and my children were much younger in elementary school, preschool, and all, I would pay for the Ashoebi then. If anyone in my organization was getting married, their parents, old parents were being buried, anything that was happening, I would be the first to contribute to it. But I most likely won't show up. It does not work with my schedule at home because this is me leaving home early in the mornings, Monday to Friday, to get back late. I live in Lagos, traffic, everything. I get back late Monday to Friday. I'm barely coping with seeing my children doing the things I should do with them. And then you expect me again to be the first one on Saturday to leave that same home and report at the wedding. No, that wedding is going to happen with or without me. So I'm going
Mm,
to choose me and my home in that moment. That was a season. Now I'm in a season where even if you invite me for a function at 7 a.m. on Monday, I can be there. Honor the seasons of life that you're in. It helps you build your home with less conflict.
mm,
Can get help, get help. Two, if you cannot cope with something, step back and do the one that is most important at that time, which for some ages of is the home. As much as possible, create time that you can spend with family. It becomes family time. This family time is not you taking time off work or closing your business. It could be just 10 minutes every night before the children go to bed. You get a recap on everybody's day in a very fun manner. It could be for those who have very young children, it could be just those 10 minutes of trying to get them to bed, reading to them. For some, it's the bath time for the children. For some, it's that 10 minutes that you spend that you're packing and getting ready for the next day. Don't dismiss those 5, 10 minutes. For some people, it's the drive from home to school for school runs. That's when the most interesting, most bonding conversations as a family happen. So look for those times that you can create your family bonding time around. Trust me, your children will remember those times. Those are the things they put in the memory treasure chest and they never forget. So create time in those very small moments in your days.
Wow, absolutely love that. That's so needed. And I like the create family time and not necessarily taking time off work to create family time.
Mm-mm.
That's so good. Very like a gem right
Okay.
there. So like my next point would be, how do we know if we are not regulated? So I don't know, is suppressing my feelings as if as a
Mm-mm.
parent, is that is that me being regulated? Like, are there patterns, are there traits, are there, behavioral things that we're doing that
Mm.
I could be doing that could help me know if I am regulated or not?
Okay, I'll start with this. There is a difference between I am angry and I'm so angry that I'm going to say whatever to my mind or do whatever to my head. Two different things. Your anger in that moment is valid and it is human and it's realistic. Now, what you do with that anger is where the regulation comes in. You cannot your feelings and you are not going to let your child get away with a negative behavior because you want to be regulated. Now, the
Mm,
way to spot if regulation is working for you is that you are able to respond to an issue in a calm manner, getting the same result, opposed to reacting and then hitting up your immediate environment and not getting a positive result. I walk in from work and let's assume I'm coming in, traffic, Lagos walk, the whole load playing in my head. Let's assume I have toddlers, someone who's helping me care for them. And the moment I come in, I probably step on a toy or two, and that ticks me off. And I go, what's everybody doing? I appear someone in this house. I go, what's everybody doing in this house? Where are these children? Why that? And then you go on and on. And there are young children who you coming and are waiting to welcome you. And they meet that. There's an instant recoil in them. Mommy is angry again. And they step back. You see, when that happens, when it becomes a pattern, you won't find those children at the door waiting for you anymore. Once they hear you, that's what we do with our parents. Once we hear them coming, everybody ducks into a corner to either pretend to be busy or asleep. That's what you'll start finding. Then the children start interacting with you less and they're finding their own corner, even the very young ones, because they cannot predict the type of mood that you're bringing to the house.
mm,
And very soon, this even begins to affect your relationship with your partner. So if you're not changing behavior with your reaction, if you're just driving people away, then that's one sign that you're not emotionally regulated.
mm,
That's one sign. And the good thing with this is that it's a skill that can be learned, but you need to be patient. I didn't get here being calm. My friends are around me and they're saying, "Oh, you're so calm." And I said it was a long journey getting to this space because I rather have my children talk to me because I'm approachable than drive them away to unsavory places because I'm always erupting like a volcano. One you would know is one, are you changing behavior from negative to positive through your responses or reactions? Are you driving the children closer to you or away from you? Those are two important ways to gauge the mood in the home and see if we're regulated or not.
Wow. So I wanted to maybe just give us like an example of a time when you
Mm.
feel like you were not regulated, and how
Always.
how it propelled you to be intentional
Mm,
about being calm, even
mm,
in times where it feels like I just want to let it all out, but I decide at this moment to be
mm.
calm. So did something happen that,
Yes.
made you feel like now I have to be calm?
I have a story about that. Now, I think the son of that I'm going to talk about was about 13, 12 or 13 years old at that time. I used to be a yeller. I would yell at everything. They're getting something wrong. Why can't you do this right? But I told you. The typical African mother in me always wanted to yell because I felt yelling meant I was in control, I was a disciplinarian, I was on top of raising my children well. Then one day, my children, especially the first two, the boys, are quite tall. They are now about 6'5", so they've been taller than me for quite a while. And that day, I was in the kitchen doing something. My son came. I vividly remember. I still remember what he was wearing. He opened the fridge and was telling me something. What I can't remember was why at that moment I was tired, of course, cooking and all of that. I just went off and shouted the response at him. And then he shut the door to the fridge, stood by the fridge, and looked at me. Of course, his voice had broken there. He had a very deep voice and he told me, Mommy, I see right now is an angry woman. I didn't hear anything you said. I'm a rational person. When you talk to me, I would listen and understand. If I have questions, I will ask you. This shouting didn't tell me anything. I can only see that you're angry. And then he went off. Oh my goodness. It felt as if a fire had been in my head. I ran, marched up the stairs to go and meet his father. Did you hear what he told me? I didn't. And I was vibrating. And then my husband just said, Sit down. I sat on the bed. I was still vibrating. He said, Tell me if you're doing anything different from what he just pointed out. And yes, you're shouting. You're not even shouting, you're livid. Over what? Now, that marked a turning point for me in how I started reacting to things with my children. Has it been easy? No.
Mm,
Has it made our relationship better? Yes, times 100. That's why I see that every skill that we can learn to stay connected with our children, because the thing with our children now is that they're leaving home earlier than when we left home.
yeah.
Children these days can easily walk away and find their own path without us. They have so many tools to do, that, and we don't want that happening. So, let's start practicing what I call the pause parenting. Step back. If you need to swallow, swallow. If you need to take 5 deep breaths, teach yourself. If you need to drink a glass of water, do it. Or you're going to say, let me think about that. Or you even admit, I'm too upset right now to think about this properly. Can you give me some time? Can we come back to this conversation when I'm better composed? They know you're a human being and they will understand. So that was what marked my change. How I started reacting, reading about it, learning about it. I didn't want to be known as that shouting mother.
Wow, wow, that's very. It felt like I was watching like a Nollywood movie. I feel like every single person that is like, like younger than maybe like around like 29, 30 years old can maybe not everybody, but quite a number of people can almost have this almost the same kind of experience. Like there was a particular day
Yeah.
my mom, I'm just like, why are you shouting? Just talk to me.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's like a very wow. That's like a very
Mm,
good example. So like it leads me like to my next question. You already answered it, but I wanted you to like I want you
mm.
to maybe help us just like maybe list it out,
Okay.
practical things. Like I like the pause parenting, practical things that we
Mm,
can do in that
mm,
moment, that can also help us, with our regulation, like with our emotional regulation, like in the times where it feels like I'm going to bring the heavens down right now. Like the
mm,
little things that we can do that can then, with time become habits, because these things you mentioned it earlier that there are skills that can be learned. So like I want to
yes.
like like maybe make a list of these things like for us.
Mm. Okay. Now I'm going to begin with pause parenting. It's a very useful tool. In fact, I call it one of the seven secrets of mindful parenting. That when you're able to hit that pause button on time before you erupt, it helps you. And I tell parents what's not to love about it. You're preserving the relationship with your child, you're preserving the calm of home, you're not giving yourself high blood pressure over something that's going to be solved anyway. That's one. Just take a moment to pause. Look for something to do in that pause. Take some breaths, count one, drink water, walk away. Just do that pause. At that time, what I always imagine when I see my children in front of me is this. If it was somebody that I was their mercy who did this thing, what will I do? For instance, if I was faced with this situation with my boss at work or somebody who company that I worked for, what would I do? I wouldn't erupt. I'm going to manage it. First thing that's going on in my mind helps me pause. Second, as a family, I on how to help each other when you're getting into that zone. My oldest son, he's around when we're into any of those matches or, getting upset with any of his other siblings. It's an agreed thing with us. He just holds me by the hand. Once I feel his hand on mine, I know I'm taking things overboard. I'm reacting, possibly overreacting. And once I feel that hand on me, I know that, okay, it's time to dial it down a bit. Have really conversations around it. That's my number three tip. Nobody is perfect. Your children are not even looking for perfect. They want to know that you're human, that just like when they make mistakes, you can make mistakes too. At those times when you cannot help it, but to unleash what you're feeling inside. Because most times we find out that it's not about what the child has done, it's about how you are feeling inside. Most times when you do that and get into that zone, some hours later, have a conversation around it as a parent. I see what I did there, and really, I could have handled it better. What do you think you could have done? What do you think I could have done? The same way you go back to your spouse if you've had a disagreement to say, what could you have done better? What could I have done? Discuss with your children too, especially once they can talk. And more, you'll find your children knowing that, oh, if I do this, mommy gets upset. If I do that, daddy gets annoyed at me. And this is how I do it. I'm not getting them upset all the time because you're talking about it, explaining to them. Conversation in families work a lot. And also, 360-degree appraisal. I'm always afraid of that, our 360-degree appraisals, which we now hold in my family virtually. Assess you as a parent, what you can do better, what you've been doing very well. Trust me, it's necessary and it helps us.
Wow. I love all of those tips. So take a pause, the pause parenting, conversations, 360-degree appraisal. I feel like if I ever give my parent 360-degree appraisal, they will beat me.
The first one
Because
is never The first appraisal is never funny.
I can imagine because I'm like, 360-degree appraisal. But I mean, like, we are raising children in a very different generation, in a generation
Oh
where
yes,
they are learning to speak up early. And so if any
yes.
parent is still somewhere thinking, oh, I'm the boss of this family, they are
Hmm.
watching TikTok
Hmm.
videos, they are watching Instagram
Hmm.
videos, they are learning that their voice matters. So they would actually speak.
Hmm.
So having conversations, with children around emotional regulation and even how
Hmm.
we are feeling as parents. Like I
Yes.
I think that another thing that just dropped in my mind now is how back then our parents tried to shield us from
Mm-hmm.
really having like a perfect understanding of how the family is running. So maybe
Yes.
someone's parents just lost their job. Instead of saying, okay,
Mm-hmm.
children, this has happened. We have lost a job. We're going to get
Mm-hmm.
another job, but in this period, we're not able to buy ice cream every Friday. We're not
Yes.
able to go to the cinema anymore. They will just keep quiet about it. And then when things are getting tough, they begin to react
They,
and then
they,
use all of those emotions on the
yeah.
child instead of just having a conversation around when you see that I'm on my laptop and I'm trying to work, don't come close because I'm trying to
Yes.
get a job for a job that I lost. But because
Yes.
those conversations don't ever get, spoken about,
Hard.
we then begin
Yeah.
to just react and just react to our children in a way that it even then scares them away from us. So like
Yeah.
I really, really like, those approaches. So the last segment of this conversation
Mm-hmm.
will be around
Yeah.
the effects of, you know, a non-regulated parent on their
Hmm.
child. So like
Hmm.
how does our ability to be regulated or not regulated, how does it affect our children?
Hmm. Ah, it's a whole lot, especially with the children facing now. If we keep using analog skills to raise digital age children, we will be driving our children away from us. It's true. Now, a child who is connected to you trusts you. A child who trusts you knows that even when they have done something and you correct, you are correcting their behavior. You are not condemning their person.
Mm,
Our parents felt then like it was the parental unit versus the children
yeah.
when we were being raised. That's what they understood. So they were not letting the children into what was going on with the parents. As a result, the children just bore the brunt of whatever it was, understanding why, like you pointed out. But now things are different. Our children are exposed. They have the internet, they have the cyber world, the whole world at their fingertips. The pressure that we are dealing with our parents were existent with us and our own parents with our children right now. We're non-existent with our parents. What did we do? Go to school, come back home, stay at home, play with your siblings, or if you live in a house with neighbors, play with your neighbors. That's all. Now we're sending children out of the home earlier. Some go to boarding schools from age 11, the country from age 16, age 15, and they're going to call their own. And you still want these children to be connected to you. Let me give a quick example. Recently, a friend of mine we spoke about this at the parents' lounge, who has a 27-year-old daughter. The daughter still lives at home. They live in the United States of America, still lives at home with them, usually typically works from home most days. Then one day logs in to start work, finds her manager was waiting for her to she had been let go from the job. Good job and all, not due to any fault of hers. They were cutting down and all. And of course, the girl, the first thing she did was she called as soon as she finished on the call, Mommy, Mommy, so and so, I lost my job. I've just been told. And then my friend went, you would have thought she had prepared those list of questions before. Went
Wow.
off into a long list of questions. What did you do? Was it because of that vacation you took last week? I've always been telling you. Oh, I'm sure you were not feeling. This is how you do. I've been talking about your laziness since. And the poor girl was like, what's going on? At that time, that child lost her job, and she lost her trust in her mom to be a safe for her. So when we do these things, the resultant effect is that the big picture that we're not looking at is that these children will find solace, company, acceptance in places outside of home. And these are places where we may not be able to influence. So I would rather my child comes to me, even when they have messed up. We will walk through this. How do we fix this? And then we come back to how did you get into this? We can't get into this. So, what happens when you have a highly unregulated home is that the children, one, grow up scared, always afraid of you, anxious, lack the confidence to speak up. And in the age that they're growing up in, these four things I've mentioned are no longer soft skills to have. They are the skills to have: confidence, responsibility, ability to think on your own, ability to reason on your own. But when you have killed all of that in the course of raising children who you want to tremble before you because you are the Lord and Master, sending equipped children into the world. When it comes back, it's coming right back to us to handle at home. So the big picture is that we won't be sending children who are equipped to handle the world on their own into the outside world because we have robbed them of creativity, we've robbed them of their self confidence, we've made them cower before everybody who is older than them. Those are the kind of things we're going to get.
Wow. The story you just shared, I don't know, just made me feel very sad. I
It
feel
was very
like
sad for me.
yeah, I feel very sad because yeah, that could have easily been avoided, you know. And
Yes.
it just really points to what we are
Mm,
saying, like this conversation that we're having today, like the importance
mm.
of parents being regulated and not always, you know, I like something that you mentioned about in our parents' generation, it felt like it was the
Yes.
parents' team against the children's team when it's actually one family and everyone is in that family to learn, everyone is in that family to grow together, you know. My parents are quite
Mm,
old now. My dad's in the 70s. And when we're having conversations now, it feels like I'm parenting my dad. I'm like, I never thought a
mm.
time of life would come where
Would
it would
come.
seem as if my dad would be taking advice from me. But then, like,
Mm,
imagine if we've destroyed the relationship, the
the
foundation of what
relationship.
family
Yeah.
is because of our
Mm,
inability to stay regulated as, as a parent. So that's like a very
mm,
sad story. But then it leads me to like my second to last question. And I would like to say that if
mm,
our audience have questions, please drop your questions so that we can, attend to them before we are done here. So what is like as parents, how do we maintain
mm,
like a very healthy boundary of discipline still,
mm.
even while we are accommodating this emotional regulation. So I feel like the
Yeah.
fear for most parents is if I start acting like I don't want to show that I have it in my head now. These children will start taking me
Yes.
for granted. Like they would do maybe do
Yes.
their homework, they would do listen to me when I cook, they would do eat my food. So like how do
Mm,
we still maintain that I'm your parent and you should do this thing while also extending like an olive branch, to our children when it
mhm.
comes to like our emotions.
Yeah. I'm going to circle back to what we started with: structure in the home. Very, very important. Children like to know what they can do, what they cannot do. Now, will they always do it? No. They're children. But are there consequences for what they do? That's what you need to ensure. Are you following through on those consequences? Still your duty as a parent. At the end of the day, you are the parent, you are the driver of the home. The children will test the boundaries. I'm yet to see a child who is so well behaved that will not push the boundaries. That's what we do as human beings at that age. And at different phases of life, they will try different types of push. But you need to hold the line. I call it holding the line. You hold the line of that boundary firmly. If you have partners and spouses, with your partners, this we don't do in our home. You hold that boundary. You're not going to do this. You're not going to cross this boundary. Over time, the children, because you have insisted on those boundaries, we greet in this home when we wake up. I know homes where they don't think it's important to greet each member of the family when they wake up. In your home, if the value is respect, show and model respect in every way. My dear moms and dads, you can't have respect as one of the values in your home and then speak your domestic helps anyhow in front of children. No, they won't. You are doing one thing and then saying something. Children learn easier and faster when they see us doing what we ask them to do. If we say that in this home, truth, one of the honesty is one of the values that we practice. Please don't let them catch you on the phone telling an obvious lie to get out of the situation. The same standards that to what can help us raise disciplined children is how many times we lose our temper or how many times we shout. It is holding ourselves to the same standards that we want to hold those children to. Otherwise, they would end up confused. What am I supposed to do here? We must be prepared to hold ourselves, which was why when we started, I said mindful or value based parenting is one of the toughest types of parenting styles to adopt because it demands that you hold yourself to the same standards that you want to hold your children to. If this is a value that your family is practicing or that you're teaching your children, let them see you in kind. So, as a family, you start with your values. These are the values guiding this family. These are the things we're expected to do in this family. These are the things we used to be known for. And start teaching that on a daily basis to your children. There will be pushbacks, but please hold the line.
Wow, absolutely love that. The fact that we circled back to the beginning, of where we started from. And I think that value and structure is indeed, a part of family life that cannot be overemphasized. Because even as two adults that are living together before having children, you want
Mhm.
to have values that you are actually like even
Yes.
holding yourselves by, and standards that you are keeping to. And then that way it helps that even if anybody airs any of those things, there is like a way to say, okay, we had this conversation about you not doing this thing. If you do it, this is the consequence. And then we hold them to that consequence just so that they take us
Exactly.
seriously before we then spiral into punishment, which is
Yes.
very good. Thank you very, very much, Mrs. Ibironke. So like my very
Thank
last question
you.
would be for parents that are feeling like everything that they're saying in the morning, me, I'm a very highly irregulated person. And I want to do better, but I'm
Mm,
feeling very guilty. Like, how do we deal
mm,
with guilt? So, I
mm,
I have like a very vivid example of this. I remember sometime when
mm,
I was in SS2, my dad said, "Don't go somewhere." I was in boarding house,
mm,
but I went there, and then my elder sister saw me like, how did you leave school?" And then she called my dad and said, "Shadi left school. Oh, this. My dad waited, though. We had vacated, went back home for the holidays, and he gave me a thorough beating. Now, it was so angry that, I did something that was I shouldn't obviously have done, but I did it
Mm.
regardless. And as a child, I was asthmatic. So he had given me that beating, and in the midst of the beating I was crying and
Beaten.
and then I just went into like an episode and was rushed to the hospital. And I saw my dad. I've never seen my dad that white. Like, he practically became, like, all the blood in his body just left him. And
Oh my
I feel like
goodness.
my dad, he left he he lived with that guilt till, I think, 3 years ago I got married, and he came to like me before I went, like, before he walked me down the aisle, and he said, I remember this thing I did, and I'm sorry. Like,
Oh,
if you had maybe
oh.
passed on that day, would you be here today to, would I be here to walk you down the
Mm.
aisle today? And a part of me feel like, did you live with that guilt? That was centuries ago. Like,
Mm.
I've gone to
Mm.
university, done a postgraduate, like, lived my life,
Mm.
and maybe he was carrying a guilt. So, like, how do our parents, how do we, how would you speak to anybody that is carrying a guilt of, like, not
Mm.
being regulated? And then how can we not always
Mm.
fall into that trap
Into it.
of,
Mm.
feeling guilty and not being able to, like, forgive ourselves?
Yes. The first thing I would say to parents is we're not perfect. Parenting is not the job of a perfect person. It's the job of somebody who's had a calling. Once a child comes into the mix, it is a calling. And you want side by side to hold your child but by and keep learning and growing. Your child is not perfect. You are not perfect. You've not been a parent before. We're all just learning. So it's that ability to be open to learning and doing better, not looking at becoming a perfect parent, because a perfect parent is even a myth anyway. If you're, you're moving between different parenting styles most days. You are moving from, oh, I'm permissive just so that I can have my peace. Some days you just want, just do what you want because I need my peace. Some days you are okay enough to say, no, you are not doing this. Different faces, different things depending on what life is handling one. So I like to say, what are we doing when nothing is wrong? Even when nothing is going wrong in the home. So emotional regulation usually happens easily when our emotional tank is empty. And what we need to do to ensure that it is not empty are the basic everyday things. Are we getting enough sleep, or are we just constantly harassed? Do you take breaks when you can? Do you take breaks when you can? One of the reasons why I started the practice of getting my children to go to bed early then, which now became a thing for them, was that I needed some 30 minutes to 1 hour for myself to calm down, calibrate after a hectic day. Are you putting in place structures that allows you to take breaks for yourself? Do you have realistic expectations of your children so that you are not just constantly beating yourself up, constantly getting fatigued? Are you trying to do everything on your own? Like I started when we said when we started, get help when you can. And then study your own personal triggers. What are the things that trigger those kind of reactions from you that now changes the temperature of the home and always gives you conflict? And then partners must be on board with parenting responsibilities. The times when it was a mother's child to raise children, gone. Everyone has a responsibility to play in raising the children. School, community, both parents, grandparents, and if you have them around, get help. And then create routines that reduce unnecessary chaos. Yes, it's beautiful to have a home that is always sparkling clean and pristine, like we're doing, getting a photo shoot or a layout in good housekeeping magazines. But there will be times when that is not possible, and it's totally okay because stressing over them places a demand on your own emotions as well. So sometimes just look the other way once in a while. It's not going to become a habit and nobody is going to judge you for it. And then do you have people that you can talk to? Do you have a friend that you can just call to unburden to 2, 3 minutes? And your mind is clearer about how hectic your life is. Those are the day to day things that we can incorporate because when our emotions are in the right place, it is easier for us to regulate ourselves. And when we regulate ourselves, it's not just for us. Our children are learning from us too, so that we don't keep passing this on from generation to generation.
Wow, thank you very much. Thank you very, very, very much, Mrs. Ibironke. I feel like the last aspect that you just spoke about is, I'm sure there's a parent on this call that just feels seen and feels like I can do it. And I want to tell you that you can do it because
Yes, you
there is
can.
indeed there is indeed no perfect parents. Like I can talk about how strict, I mean, my dad especially was, but
Mm,
I can also talk about how loving and the sacrifices that I saw him make for my siblings and I, having five children
mm,
and sending all of them to boarding
yes.
house is a lot of that. That means a lot of hours of his back, on the ground working
Mm,
to provide. So there is no perfect parenting. It's just understanding, having conversations with our
mm,
children. I cannot overemphasize the need for conversations. I feel like the more conversations parents of this age begin to have with their children, the better it makes
mm,
the parenting, even for themselves, because these children, they have friends. Like I was a
yeah.
teacher, I taught in nursery, and sometimes, like on the playground, the things that my pupils are saying to each other, I'm wondering where these things are coming from. I'm like, wow, these children, they see things, they have conversations with
Yes.
themselves, and then they keep growing up to see more things. And so the things that we don't tell them at home, they will see outside. And it
Yes.
would it would either make their relationship with us better or might. It's
Mm,
one of the two. So I think we've had like a very nice conversation today. I'm
thank
fed from this
you.
conversation. I feel like I know
I'm
better
happy.
even how to react to my husband, because it's not even only parents, even
It's not just parents.
spouses. Yeah,
Yes.
sometimes I am looking at my
Mm.
husband and I'm like, if you don't drop that spoon, maybe I'm cooking. And then he's bringing a spoon. I'm like, if you don't drop, I was like, how are you so unkind? I'm like, I'm not unkind, but actually, in that moment, I was being unkind. And I think like I've also like learned, today
I'm
how better
happy.
to even regulate my own emotions
Mm.
as a wife, not even just like a parent. So I don't think we have any questions from our audience, but I would like to
Okay.
say that today we've hosted Mrs. Ibironke Semowo. She's a
Thank
mindful
you.
parenting coach and she's the founder of Parents Lounge, a community of parents where they have this thing monthly. So it's not just monthly alone, they have bi-weekly conversations, themes of the month for parents. So if you are interested, we're going to be sending out like details to everyone that joined us today's emails. You can contact her and join the community. It takes a village to raise a child, but it also takes a village to raise parents because, like she
Yes.
said, we've not been parents before. We've not gone this lane before. We don't know what it's like to be a parent, but there are people that have gone ahead of us, people that are currently in that parenting mix that can help us all. Like we can all do this whole parenting thing together.
Mm-hmm.
So you can join the community, and thank you everyone for joining us again today for Spondle Circle. Once again at Spondle, we are building a mobile app that helps families with the mental load of
Mm.
planning their homes. Like managing the mental load of your home alone is enough to make you very
Yes.
deregulated. But
Yes.
what Spondle does
Yes.
is it gives you a platform where everything that you are
Mm.
doing in the house stays in one place, and then everybody
Mm.
in the family, the husband, the children, they have access to knowing what they should do. So instead of shouting, have you washed the dishes, have you gone to do the laundry, Spondle just simply reminds the person it's your turn to do the
Mm.
laundry tomorrow, today, and then like the houses, everyone is happy,
Wow.
everyone is regulated,
That's
their
it.
emotions are in one place. So if you don't know
Good.
Spondle, Download Spondle, use the app, give us
Hmm.
feedback. Your feedback makes us build better. Thank you everyone for joining us and see you at the next episode of Spondle Circle.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you very much, ma'am. So good to have you on
Thank
today's
you.
episode of Spondle
Thank
Circle.
you. Mhm.